and welcome to the Doofcast, a film and TV podcast from Doof Media. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me, as always, it's Matt Freeman.
That's right, coming off the top rope. Am I the heel or?
Hold on, let me just get my staple gun.
Shit. I don't think that I signed up for this.
But he did, though. He did.
He was totally down for it. He was like, okay, all right.
To be fair, if you're about to go on stage and someone comes up to you and says, "What do you feel about staples?"
Uh-huh.
I don't think you've had the time to fully think about the implications of what that means for your body.
It's true. I mean, yeah, not to dive right into it, but I think it's an indication of where he is mentally, that he's just whatever.
Yeah. This week on the show, it is part 4 of our series on the films of Darren Aronofsky. This time we are covering Aronofsky's 4th film. Really need to change how that's written. It's making sense. We're talking about The Wrestler. This is, I think, the first film in what we're calling phase 2 of Aronofsky's career. It is the first film that we've covered that he does not have any kind of writing credit on the movie. And it's an interesting one. I'm looking forward to talking with you about this movie, Matt. I think there's a lot to say about our director here.
Yeah, I agree. It's different from his other movies. I mean, I guess they're all different from each other, but yeah, there's a lot to say here for sure.
Yeah. And then we're going to go back to one of the topics that I wanted to talk to you about a couple weeks ago, which is I wanted to talk about the trailer for the new M. Night Shyamalan Trap. And I wanted to talk about how we advertise movies in 2024, how we attempt to get people out to the movies. I think maybe it's a better way to say it.
Sounds great.
All right, let's get into The Wrestler, though. This is Aronofsky's 4th film. And Matt, what is The Wrestler all about?
A fated professional wrestler must retire, but finds his quest for a new life outside the ring a dispiriting struggle.
This movie was written by Robert Siegel, directed by Mr. Aronofsky, of course, and stars Mickey Rourke, Marissa Tomei, and Evan Rachel Wood. Matt, this was the first time you had seen The Wrestler, correct?
That is correct.
What did you think of it?
I found it to be depressing and painful to watch, and also very good, very well made, very well acted, possessing all of the qualities of a good Aronofsky film, different in different ways, like especially coming off The Fountain. It feels like a very different movie in every way, right? But I think the one way in which it doesn't feel different, the primary way, is that it's tackling this really heavy, life or death subject matter, which I think Aronofsky consistently pursues.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I agree with you. I really liked this movie a lot. I remember really enjoying it the first time I saw it. I think this is only the second time I had watched this movie, and it was probably not since 2008 when it came out that I had seen this movie. And I really, really liked it. I think it's a really good movie. Here's my complicated feelings about it, Matt. I don't think this is the kind of movie I go to Aronofsky for. I think of Aronofsky as this kind of avant-garde, kind of crazy, turbulent, complicated filmmaker. And this movie is none of those things. This is a movie that shot just completely differently from anything he shot before. Now, we talked about how The Fountain was a very different kind of cutting style from a movie like Eternal Sunshine. But this movie is directed like it's like an independent picture. I mean, it's directed like a Fox Searchlight film, which who produced the movie. But like the handheld camera, the very kind of free and rough and almost like found footage type directing style sometimes. It's just a very different looking film than anything Aronofsky has made up until this point.
Yeah, there were some shots here and there that reminded me of his usual style, where it would be like an overhead shot or a high angle shot of some kind that would kind of show the character walking across some, usually walking across some desolate parking lot to his car or something like that. But yeah, I agree. The directing style, I mean, even like the color grading, it just felt
Yeah.
like it. Like I was just like, this just feels like such a normal movie.
Yeah, it's
Um,
not pretty, and even even Eternal, that's not the right one. Even Requiem for a Dream, as disturbing and disgusting as that movie was like composed kind of like extravagantly in a lot of ways, right? This is like meant to look mundane in a lot
yeah.
of ways.
Well,
Um,
yeah. I think, you know. So what I'll say, I guess, is I think that's probably intentional, and it's probably meant to convey like this is this guy's life. Like
yeah.
this is how he feels. Like in Requiem for a Dream, when they're doing drugs, it's like heightened, and then when things are absolutely going to shit, it's like heightened, but in a different way, where like the horror of it is what's heightened.
Hmm.
And I think that the same could sort of be said for the movie we're going to watch later, Black Swan, where it's
Yeah.
Black Swan is also a movie about like a performer who is undergoing a horrible crisis. That one is a lot more florid and dramatic, whereas this is just like this guy's life sucks. Doesn't even suck in like an interesting way, particularly. I mean, I don't think the movie is boring, but I think most of the reason the movie isn't boring is because uh, uh, Mickey Rourke is good.
Yeah.
It's kind of a boring story. I'm just, to be honest, it is. Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's huge sections of the film where he's just uh, getting meat for people
Yeah.
at a
Yeah.
deli counter, and like, I mean, this is the I think the thing I want to spend the most time on in this movie, and maybe that's not fair to the movie, and we need to get into the movie specifically, and we will. But I do think, like, I was thinking about this a lot, especially since our conversation last week about talking about how much of a commercial and critical failure The Fountain was, and I agree with you, by the way, that every directorial choice here is purposeful, and it's like he shot the movie like this because it was the correct way to shoot this particular movie. The question I have is like, why is he making this movie? And like, there is a part of me, and I haven't done any research and I have no evidence to back up this claim at all, but there's a part of me that just feels like Aronofsky, after the failure of The Fountain, was just like, fine, I'll just do what everyone else is doing. And he's really fucking good at it because he's Darren Aronofsky and he's really good at making movies. But he makes a movie that looks like, a popular indie film of the time period, which is exactly what this movie looks like. The way this movie shot, like the most popular camera angle he uses in this entire movie is when he's holding a handheld camera and following behind Mickey Rourke as he walks through a place, like, and he goes back to that shot over and over again. And that's such like a quintessential like indie movie shot. Like, I'm only saying this, Matt, because I watched like a shit ton of indie movies from around this time, the mid 2000s. I just watched so many independent films that all look exactly like this. Like,
Uh-huh.
the style, the color grading, as you said, the kind of gruff nature of it. Like, they just it looks exactly like those movies. And I'm not saying that's a bad look. I'm not. It's just like, that's not what I expect an Aronofsky film to look like. And frankly, like, the themes of this movie and the story of this movie are just not what I expect an Aronofsky movie to be talking about. Like, it just feels like he's doing one for them now, because he's pissed off. He's pissed off at the lack of recognition at when he was going full himself.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, totally possible. And if that was his rationale, he wasn't wrong, because he ended up getting nominations and
I know, that's the
acclaim.
greatest irony of this, right? Where he's like, "Fine, fuck it, I'll just do what you guys all want,"
Yeah,
and it works because he's really good at it.
he made almost $45 million on a $6 million budget.
Yeah,
Which, so $45 million is still not a ton, but yeah, great for the budget. And then
yeah, but on a six, I mean, that's a
yeah,
huge gain. Yeah,
that's a
no,
huge
that's
gain. Yeah.
massive. It's massive.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, then they got Academy Award nominations, like I said, and I mean, the thing is, like I said, I never saw this movie when it came out, but I do really vividly remember the conversation around the movie, and specifically, around Mickey Rourke, and just like
Yeah.
Mickey Rourke's had this horrible life and his career has been in the dumps, and he's just like the character. He's
Uh-huh.
just like the character of the wrestler. He's a loser who got a second chance. Or I guess the wrestler didn't really get a second chance. He just got to go out with a bang, which I don't
Mhm.
actually know how Mickey Rourke's career has gone since then. So maybe the same exact thing happened to him.
Yeah, he's
Um,
not doing great.
yeah, yeah. I guess I don't know. I might have been going somewhere with that, but I'm going to derail myself and just say, like, I, I I don't think I've seen him in a lot of stuff, but I think he was the best in this movie when he's just kind of doing normal things, and you're just kind of following him, and he is expressing the sort of quiet desperation and
Yeah.
misery of this character through, subtlety of just like his posture and the way he reacts to things and his facial expressions. Like
Yeah.
he gets a couple of like Oscar speeches in the movie, and I was like, yeah, those are kind of fine. Like I bought them to the extent that I bought that this character um would like doesn't quite know how to deliver an Oscar speech, because that's who this character is. But like
Yeah.
the best parts of the movie were just sort of him being him.
Yeah.
I think that's just one remarkable thing about Aronofsky, by the way, is like he can take stuff that isn't, super elevated and like find the I don't know, find the humanity or universality in something really mundane. Like, I mean, just the scenes where he's cutting up meat for people. Like, I was riveted,
Yeah.
like
Oh
like
yeah. Yeah.
like how does that work exactly? I'm really fascinated by that.
No, I agree with that, and I think Mickey Rourke is incredible here. And I agree with you. It's not in the loud moments. It's in the quiet moments. It's like, not to be mean to Mickey Rourke, but he looks like shit,
Uh-huh.
and that just fits the character. Like that, you feel the character's age, his tiredness, his soreness. That his joints don't really work, and yet at the same time, he's absolutely ripped because he's juicing all the hell, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like you just everything there were actually. I read that the studio really, really wanted Nicolas Cage for this movie, and I love Nicolas Cage,
Uh-huh.
but that would have been absolutely wrong. Like that just would not have been right, like at all.
Yeah.
And it was Aronofsky that said in his mind it was always Mickey Rourke, and he fought for Mickey Rourke, and he won that battle. And like that's amazing, because like I just don't think this movie is this movie without Mickey Rourke in it. And I think that, like, to kind of try to connect the segue that I think you were perhaps trying to make, is the conversation around this movie was about Mickey Rourke, and I think that's different from Aronofsky's original movies, where the directing and the style of the film was at the forefront of the conversation. Like when people talk about Requiem for a Dream, as good as all the performances in that movies are, they don't really talk about the performances very much. They talk about the editing, the energy of it, the how what cameras we choose, and how we cut, how we like construct the film. The performances are secondary, and I think that's similar to The Fountain in that, like, it's a very big, beautiful movie centered by two very good performances, but like, the beauty of the music and the visuals is really what I think people think of when they think about The Fountain. When people
Mhm.
think about the wrestler, they think about Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
And that's just, he's the sole focus of this. And that is a change and a shift for Aronofsky, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, he kind of stays out of the way and lets the actors shine. Just
Mm-hmm.
gives them time to just express things. Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's stylistically just a lot of the script is moments where not much is happening, which is
Yeah.
very different from any of the three movies that we've talked about so far. They've
Yeah.
all been like this hyperkinetic. I mean, even if all that's happening is like people are doing drugs, it's still shot in a way that's like, look at how dramatic it is that they're doing drugs. and this is just not, it's just not stylistically not like that at all. I think
Yeah.
that's so cool though. Like, I don't know. I'm going to say this just to get it out of the way. Like, this is definitely like my least favorite of the four that we've watched so far.
Yeah.
But that's not. I'm not saying that to be like this movie's garbage. He's really fallen off. I'm saying it just to be like, I like his hyper stylized
Yeah.
approach to things, and I like that he kind of is able to tone it down when he needs to, and that's cool. And the movie still obviously works well and everything. But I just
Yeah.
I think I like his main thing that he does.
That I agree, and that's kind of what I mean when I say like this isn't what I go to Aronofsky for. Like
Mhm.
this, you're absolutely right. I love this movie. Like I think this is a very, very, very good movie. But like when I sit down and I say I want to watch something that Darren Aronofsky created, like I want it to be that the other stuff that we've talked about. I don't want it to be this. I think this is great, and he does very good at it. But that's not what I want from him as a creator, because I know he can do this other thing as well. And I want him to do that. I want him to have the freedom and opportunity to make crazy shit like The Fountain and like Requiem
Yeah.
and like Pi. Like that's what I want. And this is a very, very good, well told. It's a very good script too. I know he didn't write it, but I think it's a really solid script as well. And that's great. And I love that movies like this exist. And I love that people can make them, but I don't want Aronofsky to make them. And I'm a little worried because The Whale is the only Aronofsky film that I haven't seen. And I'm worried that like just the connecting dots between this one and that one is, oh, it's another Aronofsky movie that gets awards praise heaped on it. And I'm like, oh no, is it going to be like this again? Where he's like, okay, I'm going to do one of these again because that's what you want me to do.
Yeah, let me find a washed up actor who everybody has a lot of positive feelings around.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't know, but yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I think you mentioned the music maybe, or just in passing, one of us mentioned the music, and it was funny because like I couldn't at first I couldn't remember any music in this movie. I think you were contrasting it to Requiem for a Dream, and it's like it's not that the movie doesn't have music, but I think most of the music that you notice in the movie is diegetic, where it's music that the characters are listening to and reacting to, or it's like the music that they're playing in the wrestling venue as it's happening. Which I think is cool. Like I think it works for the style of movie that it is. Yeah,
I agree. The trivia I read was that the Sweet Child of Mine was donated by Axl Rose because like they had $6 million for their budget, and like that song is so expensive. It's so much money to license that song for your movie. But I guess Guns N' Roses liked maybe Mickey Rourke. I don't know, but they let them use it for free.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like I learned a lot about wrestling in this from this movie. I mean,
yeah. How do you feel? Like, you're not like a wrestling guy, right?
No, I mean, I like martial arts, and I like sort of, especially after this movie, you appreciate the athleticism of what wrestlers do. Like they're, even if it's not a real fight, they are still like jumping, gymnastically off of a thing and like landing on a guy in a very careful and precise way that doesn't kill both of them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of awesome, but no, it's never been my thing. I mean, I liked it, but also like I wasn't kidding at the beginning when I said I found the movie uncomfortable. Like there were even more so than Requiem for a Dream. There were parts of this movie where I had to look away from the screen, particularly the sequence where I just want to describe the sequence for a second, because like you see the aftermath of the wrestling match first, where they come back into the changing room and they're both absolutely shredded and full of staples and just bleeding everywhere. And the doctors are like, basically cruelly fixing them up without really paying attention to how much they're in pain. And as we're watching this, we're like cutting to the match where they're just doing these horrible things to each other, which I guess this is probably a real thing. I didn't look into it, but just like the thing where it's not really, it's not WrestleMania. It's like, we're going to go into a back room and basically just torture each other, and people are going to cheer. I don't know.
Yeah, there's like a form of wrestling called like hardcore wrestling that like goes like harder than like the mainstream stuff, and that's what I think this was meant to channel.
Yeah, But no, I just to say, like, this is one place Aronofsky likes to go. He likes to go to places where people are sticking a drill into their skull, or
Yeah.
stabbing a heroin needle into their infected heroin pustule, or in this case, just uh, uh, uh,
They're
brutalizing each other and real
covered in blood. They're
like
just covered in blood.
yeah. And the way, like, I always think this is interesting because I can watch like an action movie, like The Raid or something, where a guy kills like 14 guys with a hammer, and I'm just like, fuck yeah. But like the way there's something about the way it's shot, and like the focus on the characters' reactions, and like the sounds that they make as they're being like cut with a fork or whatever. It really is uncomfortable, and I can't stand it.
Yeah, it's really it's really rough. And as you said in the introduction, it's like a perfect way of describing this guy's mindset, is that he is so fully committed to this one thing as the only thing he knows how to do and the only thing that makes him happy, that he is just treating his body like shit for the benefit of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And for what is essentially like a shitty amount of money too.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like he's a rich mainstream wrestler and putting his body through the ringer. He's barely hanging on and still doing this. Also the part in the first match we see fully, where he like hides a razor blade in his tape and then slices his head open to bring realism to his head getting smashed into the ropes. Mickey Rourke did that for real. Yeah, he sliced his head open. So
yeah,
and that's not even like a hardcore match. That's just like it's billed as not something Rourke is doing that's like above and beyond the expectations of wrestling. It's just like, this is what we do.
Yeah.
And it's horrifying. It really is. I mean, I like you, I'm not really into wrestling. I have some friends that are like super into it, and I've been over at their houses like while we were watching wrestling matches, and I like completely get the appeal, because it's essentially just storytelling, right? It's like with these matches, and it doesn't matter if the outcome is decided by someone at the end, because we're seeing a story play out in the over the course of the fight, and it's exciting, and there are ups and downs and twists and everything that a good story has. And I totally get why people are so into this. But yeah, man, like just seeing what these people go through, like I understand why the people that love wrestling just roll their eyes at the whole "it's fake" thing, because it's like, I mean, it's fake in that they're not really punching each other in the face in that one particular scene, but yeah, they're beating the shit out of each other still.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, exactly. The jumping, like, imagine just being, a large man and jumping off of a high thing onto like your hands and knees and like belly, basically. Like, there's no way to do that. It doesn't matter if like, oh, it's kind of, the floor kind of flexes when you hit it. It's like, no, there's no way to do that doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
I always think about this time. I mean, you get knocked around in martial arts context all the time, so that's sort of that's sort of priced in. But I always think about this one time in a theater class when we were practicing, like, I forget, there's probably like a correct theater word for this, but just like stage violence, basically. And we had to make a small scene that was like incorporated some element of stage violence, and so me and my partner, who by the way was just like the biggest guy in our school, just to make this, which is true, but also makes the story more fun. I think that he just kind of beat the shit out of me for a while, as part of our routine. And like, unfortunately, like the last thing was like, I had been like thrown onto a chair, and I was like like leaning on the chair, frontwise, and he's supposed to like bash my head into the seat of the chair. And I don't even know if it was his fault or just like I was selling it too hard, but I just bashed my head into the chair. And I was like mildly concussed, like, but I sold it. The crowd loved it. So like, I just mentioned this because it's like doing fake violence, but like selling it, is painful.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
so I'm absolutely, it's easy to sell me on this for sure.
But you can understand like the addiction of it too, like why this is, this guy just doesn't really have anything going for him. He's messed up, and in the one place he's respected, the one place he's appreciated, the one place where he gets to hear people scream his name is in the ring. And like I don't know, like you have to tell me what you thought about this, because I had seen this movie before, so I remembered kind of how it ends. But this is a kind of movie in my mind that you kind of know where it's going to go from the very beginning. Like you just have a feeling like this is not a movie where the guy like manages to change fundamentally.
Yeah.
This is a movie that's going to just be a sad story of a guy who kind of can't escape himself and his problems, and that's the way the story. And I just like I felt that from the very first frame that that's what this movie's going to be. Which again is a thing that I think is very different from Aronofsky. We talked about this last week, that this is a movie that's pretty straightforward in its theming, right? Like this is not a movie that you need to like try to crack or solve in any way. The movie tells you pretty explicitly what it's about and what it's saying. And that's not bad. Like I think it's a good movie. It's very good at what it's doing. But again, that is a change for Aronofsky, I think.
Yeah. I think you're right. I knew how it ended, even though I hadn't seen it. But I think regardless, I think stylistically, it telegraphs what its message is going to be, which is a fine way of doing storytelling.
Was that just culture osmosis? You knew?
Yeah,
oh, yeah. Interesting.
It's just been out for forever. So I just,
true.
For me, the emotional low point of the movie is not like that he's going to die. That's almost like it's almost like kind of catharsis where you're like, yeah, this is the best way for him to go out. Like it's sad. Like you're definitely like, I was actually, a little bit emotional at the end, despite the fact that I knew it was coming. Cause it's just like, it's just this bittersweetness where it's like, yeah, I mean, he's right. Nobody loves him. He has no one.
Yeah.
And this is, at least here, he gets to go out the way he's always felt good about himself, the way he's always felt at home. But yeah, the low point for me was when he, goes to, I don't know, he goes to some wrestling thing and, gets drunk and has sex with somebody. And then it's just amazing. I mean, this is probably also my favorite shot of the movie, is just like, he like staggers out of bed and like goes to the fridge and then like closes the fridge. And then you just see centered in the frame, the picture of his daughter on the fridge. And you see him see it at the same time, and he's immediately realizes that he's forgotten that he was going to, take her to dinner, and he knows instantly that he has blown it forever, and it's just all kind of, because at that point in the movie, you could believe that there could be some reconciliation there. They did have that, that nice day where they danced, and that was beautiful and great. And then
it's like you wish the movie could end there, and it's not gonna.
Yeah.
This could only ever be temporary for him. But yeah, I agree with you. It's all just ridiculously sad, and he's like trapped and stuck in this thing. We haven't talked about Marissa Tomei very much at all. I love her. I have had a crush on Marissa Tomei forever, since birth, I think.
Okay.
And she's all kinds of naked in this movie, which I remember very much enjoying. Yep. But she's a remarkable actress, and she's playing this woman who is just like in a comparably similar position to Mickey Rourke's character, right? Where she's an aging person who's in a business in which youth and beauty are commodities, and is increasingly finding herself feeling like she doesn't belong here, but doesn't know what else to do. And like the movie doesn't spend too much time on that. I mean, it does. Like, I think there's some great scenes where the movie kind of does it without saying anything, where she's just like wandering around the strip club, like trying to get people to dance with her, and just nobody's interested. And
insane, of course, but
Yeah, I mean, it's freaking Marissa Tomei. Yeah, like, um, but like I really love that, and the ways in which their stories parallel each other, and they find each other, and she kind of can't get out of her own way in the same way that he can't get out of his own way. But the culmination of the movie is her being able to push through that, and quitting, getting out of there, going to him, and like I think the line was, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's like, I'm here, I'm
Yeah.
really here, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's too late at that point. And then he's in the ring, dying. His heart is, he's about to go into cardiac arrest, clearly. And the last thing he does before he decides to get up on the ropes and do the ram jammer is he looks and sees that she's left, which is like, I am truly alone.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't even blame her for that, because like, yeah, he's in this self-destructive mindset, and how could you possibly be around this person? But
right. I mean, it's like, what is she obligated to watch him self-destruct just because?
Yeah,
even after she really did make the effort of showing up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you feel like, I think it's a very fine line to walk with stories like this, because it's very easy to fall on the side of, God, I'm so annoyed at this character. I hate him. He sucks. And I never really felt that, which is really interesting because, I mean, gosh, there's so many movies that are about self-destructive characters who, maybe you think they're going to pull out of it, and then they don't, and they screw up again because they're fundamentally screw ups, like his daughter says.
Yeah.
But like, I just somehow, I think it was just Rourke's performance mostly, but also just like some nuances of the story that just made me buy, like, he's trapped both by circumstances and by his own nature.
Yeah.
And the saddest part, I guess, is that he's just kind of right that there's no way out for him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah. I think the movie does do work to make us like him. And I think that's why you never really hate him. The thing I'm thinking of while you were talking was, we get the opening sequence of him going home and finding his trailer home has been locked because of lack of payment, and he sleeps in his van. And what's the first thing we really see of him after that is a bunch of kids wake him up, and he plays with them. And it's like, it's very clear very quickly that the kids of the trailer park are like, they love him because, and not just because he's the ram, but just because he's like a fun guy that like will actually play with them and have fun with them.
Yeah.
And like, that's the thing that endears you to him. And then on top of that, when he is working at the deli, when he is having to be at the front, like the first time we see him do it, he's A, good at it, and B, he's like this really charismatic, friendly person to everyone around. Like, he's talking to them and joking around with them and like playing with, and it's like, it's a type of thing where you're always allowed to see why people like him so much when he's in this performance mode.
Yeah.
It's just like, this performance mode is like the only time he can do this, and he just can't do it normally.
Yeah.
It's like, only when he has an audience can he be this person that everyone loves, and he can't do it with individual people. He can't do it with his daughter. He can't do it with the women that he's with.
Yeah. That was the fun little short story of the deli that was kind of stitched through the movie, was him sort of trying to just be a normal person and do his job, and he couldn't quite do it. Like, he'd get excited and he'd throw the thing to the guy instead of just handing it to him. And I mean, like you said, all these little things to make you like him. Like, even when the woman is like a little bit more, a little bit less, a little bit more, and he's obviously like this, he's at a low point. He's at like the lowest point emotionally in the movie, and he's not happy, but he's just like, a little bit more, okay. and he does it, and he doesn't take it out. He eats some of it. He does kind of slip, but even that is sort of a showman. He's not taking it out on her. He's not being cruel. He's just kind of letting a little bit of his personality out. And then, like, I love that. I mean, when he finally does snap, it's because of the manager, not really because of the I mean, it's partly because somebody recognizes him. And he feels ashamed to be like, this is how far I've fallen. But then what I love about it is he turns the moment into like kayfabe, basically, where he cuts himself on purpose and then makes a big show of it, right? He turns it into theater. He turns it into a wrestling show where, you know, he's yelling and smashing things with wrestling moves, and he's not hurting anyone. Like he's having fun. Actually, he's providing a show for these people. I mean, they're going to have such a story to tell later, right? It's
you're so right, and that's one of the things that I just didn't remember about the movie. Like if you had asked me before I watched this movie, I would have said he is like kind of frazzled because the guy recognizes him and he's not paying attention and he accidentally slices his finger open on the meat slicer. But you're right. No, he does it on purpose, and he does it on purpose in the same way he slices his head open, and the same way he says okay about getting staples into him. He turns it into what he does, and this is all he knows how to do. And it's the only thing he's good at, and it's the only thing that makes him happy. And it's really sad. I mean, and this is, you know, we haven't talked about Black Swan yet, Matt, but I think a very different movie with a similar central premise of giving your body and everything that you are for a very specific thing that you can do.
Yeah, which is also, you know, strongly age limited too, right?
True. Yeah. Yeah, and also I don't want to get too meta with it, but like I was thinking about like this as an Aronofsky self-insert of like, this is all I know how to do, and I do it because people love it, and then like him having an existential crisis after he spent 6 years doing one thing and people didn't love it. What do I do? And like, so I can see a little of Aronofsky in the work character, even though he's not that age yet, and he's not like at that point in his life yet. But I don't know. I see a little bit of this idea of like, I've given everything for this. This is what I do. This is all I know how to do. And you didn't like it.
Yeah. I think there's something to that. I don't think that's off base. I mean, it's not his script, right? But I think it's
it is
still,
not. But he did choose to do it.
So yeah, right. I mean, it's I guess another thematic connection that I think is an interesting thing that Aronofsky returns to is like the people always think about the drug addiction stuff in Requiem for a Dream for obvious reasons, but I think, like I mentioned when we talked about it, the most poignant part of the story, the part that affected me the most on this viewing, was the mom and her life, and not even specifically like the fact that she gets addicted to diet pills. Like, it's just her sad life, knowing like your life is ending. Like, you're not on death's door, but your life is kind of winding down. The slope is definitely negative at this point, and it's probably not going to go positive again. And and that's why she gets so hopeful about this idea of being on TV. Is it's like, oh, there's like one last kind of blaze of glory before I become completely irrelevant forever and die. Right? It's a kind of, interestingly, I think it's very similar to the idea of the fountain, of like not wanting to die, of just like, like I want more life. I want to hold on to this and squeeze everything out of it. And having some big thing to look forward to is a kind of antidote to fears of death, because you're like, yeah, I mean, I'll probably die, but not until after I do this thing, right? You can't be that depressed when you've got something cool to look forward to. And that really reminds me of how this story shapes up, which is interesting because he didn't write this one, but it really, like the fact that he knows, just like that character in Requiem, he knows he's been going downhill for years, for decades, really. And he knows that things aren't going to get better. And then somebody offers him, one final, match with his nemesis, right? His wrestling nemesis, of course, is actually his friend, right? His longtime friend, which I just
the Ayatollah, whose real name is Bob, which I loved.
Yeah. And then he said, and so he gets to go out in a blaze of glory. And it's like, I see this through line through at least these three movies, of like the fear of death and how we deal with that in different ways. It's interesting. I didn't necessarily think of it as a centerpiece of his career, but it's kind of jumping out to me more. I guess part of it is that we're coming off The Fountain, and The Fountain is just so centrally about life and death.
Yeah.
But I mean, kind of all of his movies are, though. So
Yeah, I mean, I love that, and I think it is really interesting that this thing, this elderly person dealing with their mortality and their life is a thing that clearly has been he's been interested in for a long time. And like, I think when Requiem came out, he had to have been, I think in his 30s, but like early 30s.
yeah,
Um,
I'm not sure.
okay, yeah, he was born in 69. So when this movie came out, when the wrestler came out, he was 39. So, our age, Matt. I don't know how that makes you feel. Um,
Not
not
good.
great.
Not good, Scott. Yeah.
But yeah, I think just this preoccupation that it almost makes it seem like when you frame it the way you just did, that like the Fountain was even more of a personal story than I even considered it was. That like perhaps the fear of death and the fear of irrelevancy in old age is a thing that really drives him, and he thinks about
Yeah.
quite often.
Or, you know, or at least it's something that he thinks is an interesting artistic topic. Like,
Sure.
like which I only say that because I think I fall into saying that if an artist makes art about a thing, it's because they are obsessed with it, when maybe it's just like, well, you know, sometimes you like drawing cats because cats are fun to draw, not because you're obsessed with cats. Like
Fair.
whatever. Like I'm not disagreeing with you. But I think, I mean, I think the fear of aging is not commonly talked about or the subject of art, because it's so uncomfortable. Like it's interesting, right? Because there are certain fears that we all have that we just love to make art about. How many the wife has died and we've got to get revenge for her movies are there, or the wife is sick and we've got to cure the wife, and like we love telling that story because there's something like there's something palatable about that in a weird way, or like there's something like wish fulfillment about the idea of like, I wish I had a wife that I loved enough to have a massive mental breakdown when she died. Like I don't know what the I don't know what the dynamics are exactly, but everybody, you know, everybody dies. If we're lucky, we get old and die, which sucks. So in other words, if we're lucky, we get to have a really shitty experience and then die over a long period of time. And this is just, and I think maybe he's just like correctly noticing, like, you know, there's a lot of drama here to be mined. There's a lot of drama to the idea of like, you viewer are one day going to be irrelevant, and you're going to be the oldest person at your job, whatever your job is. It doesn't matter if it's wrestler. It doesn't have to be a physical job. You're just going to be the oldest person, and they're going to be like, all right, you don't know how to use the hyperneural cube, and we don't have time to train you, and you know that you're not adding to really anything that's going on here, but you don't want to leave because then you're going to be irrelevant, and then what are you good for? Because your identity has been tied to this wrestling or this whatever. What we all have an identity tied to being useful. I don't know. I know I'm kind of going on, but like it's a thing we don't talk about a lot because it's very painful and there's kind of nothing you can do about it. So we just don't like to talk about it.
No, this is great. I completely agree with you. And this is something that I've not directly felt, but have been starting to feel in just like the ways in which the culture has started to move on from us. Like, I don't know if you know what like the prime movie going demographic is, Matt. It's 19 to 34. So we're not in that anymore.
Oh God. Okay. All right.
And yeah, like I started a new job recently, and I have a woman on my team, and we were joking around about like isn't it funny all the ways in which these newer generations do different things? Like if you tell someone, you know, to mime answering a phone, you know, we'll do the two fingers out thing, right? Whereas a person of the current generation will just, you know, like hold their hand up like they're holding a smartphone to their, because that's what they know. And then I was like, yeah, and like it's crazy that like the save icon on like Microsoft Word is a floppy drive, and people today don't even know what a floppy drive is. And she looked at me and was like, that's not a thing. And I was like, what do you mean that's not a thing? Floppy drive? That's not a real thing.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
god.
oh no,
And you're
oh
like,
no,
what do you think this shape is?
oh no.
Oh my
And I
god.
just felt so old, like
Uh,
immediately. And I mean, that's like that I think that's kind of a lesser example of what you're talking about here, but that like stuff like that is going to continue to happen, right?
yeah.
Where like I love the idea that inevitably someone is going to be the oldest person in the room at some point in their lives. Like that, yeah, that is going to happen. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that feeling that you're the old one now, it's got to be really discombobulating.
I know. Even in Pi. Now that we're talking about this, I'm realizing that the not the main character, of course, but his mentor is this like washed up, failed mathematician who, presumably had his career, had his day in the sun, and now he just plays Go and sits around and feeds his fish. And he seems to be sanguine about it, but then when Max starts needling him about like what did you discover, why did you never finish this, it's clear that he sort of regards this as a failure of like just a failure to achieve his life's work basically, and he's not happy about it, he's not good with it, and then he ends up diving back into it at the end of the movie, which then leads to him weirdly lining up with our main character having a heart attack in this movie. It leads to him having a stroke because he just couldn't put it down. It's funny how like I would have said Pi had nothing to do with this movie, and now I'm realizing like no, I think it's all kind of resonates with this one particular through line of
yeah,
aging and dying. And
I mean, you're so right, and like this is why I love this project we do, because like if you had asked me at the beginning like what is the central core theme of Darren Aronofsky's work, I don't think I would have been able to articulate any of this. But here we are 4 movies in, we've got quite a few to go still, and this seems so clear and self-evident to me now.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll persist, or if it's just like it's the theme of the first part of his career. I mean, we're more than halfway through.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean, I think that like obviously the Black Swan is a different animal, in that it's dealing with a very young woman at the start of a career trajectory similar to Mickey Rourke's, I guess. But I think even that, like, there's a character in that movie. I don't want to go too much into that movie in case people haven't watched it yet, but there's a character in that movie who is the aging elderly character. Desperately, and you could argue Natalie Portman's mother as well. I'm seeing it. We haven't even watched the movie yet, and I'm seeing this very clearly. So I think it's there.
And there's the younger, hotter character who maybe going to take the spotlight. I agree. Yeah.
And of course, Noah is a movie about Noah.
It's funny because I'm perfectly fine with just setting Noah aside, but but I do wonder, like, he's the writer, and he's the writer, director, producer on Noah, so maybe he's gonna put some of these very particular themes that he likes to return to in Noah somehow.
I think that is the one I'm most fascinated about chatting with you about, and we're studying, is Noah, because I've seen it. I did see it. I remember so little of it. And what I remember is not favorable. So I'm just really, really anxious to sit down with this one for sure. Yeah.
Every time I try to think about it, I just start thinking of images from the Russell Crowe Robin Hood movie. So.
Another common refrain of Darren Aronofsky is Mark Margolis as in this movie as well.
Oh yeah.
He plays a really bit part character. I don't even remember the name of the character, but he's there. I think he's in like every single Aronofsky film. Maybe that's not true, but he's been in all 4 so far.
That's interesting. I didn't notice him in this movie, actually.
He's in it. It's like a very small, like almost cameo.
What's funny is I'm only just now realizing that he was also in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, he's the bell guy.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Hector Salamanca.
Oh yeah, there you go. Wow, good memory. Well done.
Yeah, that was totally because I remembered it.
Did you look it up that fast?
Yeah, I was looking it up because I was like, I don't know that I know who that is, and then I was gonna be like, because I was trying to think who else is in the movie also, because this is the first one, I guess, where he didn't have his full slate of actors that he loves to hire over and over.
Yeah. He is also in Black Swan and Noah, by the way.
Okay, all right.
So I think all we have left is Mother and The Whale to see if he's in those.
All right.
There's not a lot of opportunity for him to be in Mother, which will come clear to you when you watch that movie. But.
Okay. Oh, I guess one last thought. We talked about Marissa Tomei, and then the conversation moved away from Marissa Tomei. But speaking of recognizing actors, like Marissa Tomei has a very remarkable thing that she does as an actor, where like she'll kind of change her face, like to be the character's face, and like literally change the palette of expressions that she makes. Where it's like in this movie, she has that sort of that smile, that like really like exaggerated, I'm talking to a customer smile, and they'll give me a bigger tip if they think I like them. But you can see in her eyes that it's fake, you know. And there's a lot of stuff she does in this movie where like it was so extreme that I was genuinely like, is that Marissa Tomei, or is that just someone who looks a lot like Marissa Tomei? and normally, like, I normally don't have this problem. Normally I don't have the problem of not recognizing actors, but I was just like, she was just doing such different things with her face. It probably doesn't help that she's wearing a lot of makeup in a lot of scenes.
Yeah,
but I was ready and willing to believe that this was just one of those actors who just happens to look a lot like Marissa Tomei. But no, it is in fact Marissa Tomei. But no, I think that's always a really remarkable and effective thing when an actor has that level of like control, that they can sort of distort their face so much that they kind of become a different person.
Yeah, that's totally fair, and I completely agree. But I will never not recognize my wonderful Marissa Tomei.
Yes, of course.
She just bites her lip, and I'm dead. I'm just dead.
I know, Scott.
Everyone, when she got cast as Aunt May in Spider-Man, I, along with the rest of America, kind of lost our collective minds a little bit there.
Yeah, that was a good choice. That was
remember just like the hot Aunt May. Like even the movie leans into that with just like Robert Downey Jr. like relentlessly hitting on Aunt May.
Yeah,
it was great.
Is in the whole like side relationship with her and Happy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, she's wonderful. She's an actress I've loved since. I wonder what the first thing I saw Marissa Tomei in was. Like, I definitely saw My Cousin Vinny and loved her in that. But I don't know. I have to look into this.
I don't know
where my infinity crush started.
Yeah,
I don't know. But I will unapologetically love every movie that she's in. So you knew I was going to love this movie from the beginning.
Of course.
We haven't talked about Rachel Evan Wood, which is like the only other actress that's listed as like on the lead cast. Which, by the way, you won't recognize this, and frankly, I didn't either. But a lot of the wrestling performers are just wrestlers, just like real wrestlers that are not like, you know, big time like WWE wrestlers, but just like one of the many small wrestling outfits that exist out there. So like there's a lot of non-professional actors in this movie. And I forgot to tell you this. I should have talked about it when we were talking about the deli counter stuff. That was those people that he was serving. Real people just wanting meat at a deli. Like the movie was so low budget that they were just filming at like an active working grocery store, and people kept coming up to the counter, and Aronofsky just told Mickey Rourke, just go with it, just do it, just take their orders and give them their food. Which, like, when you think about it, has to be a health code violation of some sort.
Yeah, and also the fact that the people weren't just like, why is there a man with a camera?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, when I did my short film in Dallas years back, we filmed at a convenience store, a gas station convenience store. and it was like active because they were basically, we just went to them and said, hey, do you mind if we film here? We don't have any money, so we can't pay you. And so they're obviously not going to close their business down for us to film. And they're like, yeah, it's fine. The one thing they said was, tell people if they ask what you're filming for, tell them that someone here won the lottery, is what they told us to tell people.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I guess it just makes their store look good, and maybe makes people want to buy more lottery tickets.
It's very clever. Yeah.
But I think there's just like, when people see, camera crews and stuff, and because this movie was so low budget, like I'm sure they didn't have like giant setups with like tracking shots. It was probably just like a handful of people, a lot of lights and some handheld cams. And you could easily just be like, oh, we're just doing like a thing. Don't worry about it.
It's a documentary.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was talking about Evan Rachel Wood and I got distracted. She's really good in this too. It's a very small part. Like, she doesn't get a lot of opportunities, but she has to kind of come into the movie as a fully fleshed out character. We have to like understand that her experience with her father has been absolutely miserable and she truly hates him. And like, she has to play the gamut of emotions with like, she hates him the first time she sees him, and then he wins her over by the end of that sequence, but then immediately hates him again. I don't know. Like, it's just one of those kind of thankless side character roles that she actually has to do quite a bit in.
No, I thought it was great. I thought it was perfectly adequate. It was funny. I don't think I've
I know you didn't mean it meanly, but that sounds so mean.
Yeah, no, it was solid. It was it was good. I was distracted actually, because I was like, I knew I had seen her in something before and I could not think of what it was. And she's been in a bunch of stuff, but I hadn't seen any of it. And it turns out it was The Ides of March, starring George Clooney. And
yeah, that's kind of wild to me that that's the one Evan Rachel Wood thing you've seen.
The only other thing. I'm serious. Unless I'm just scanning over other things. I don't think so.
Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Sometimes somebody gets past your radar.
I think the first thing I saw her in was Across the Universe, which is the Beatles movie.
I've seen that too,
which I haven't seen that movie since it came out, and it happened to come out when I was in like a big Beatles kick, because I don't know if you remember this. I took that elective in college called the History of Rock Music. Which is the best class ever, by the way. And like, it was 50% just the teacher playing the Beatles for us and being like, here's why this is good, which was like such a fun, and like, in retrospect, maybe directly draws a line to us making a podcast where we're like, look at this great movie, here's why it's good. I just can't do it with music because I don't understand music as much, but like, one of my favorite courses ever. And I was in a huge Beatles kick, and then this Beatles movie came out that I don't think is actually that good, but they had Beatles songs in it, and it had Evan Rachel Wood as the lead. She was Lucy from Lucy in the Sky.
Yeah, I do.
Just saying that made me think, I don't think this is a good movie.
Yeah, I've seen that movie. I don't remember it very well. I don't think I liked it very much.
Yeah, it's probably not very good, but it had Beatles songs in it, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think my feeling was like that's just all there is to this movie. It's just people like the Beatles. So
yeah, and it's like covers, right? So like, I mean, there's some instances where like, oh, that's an interesting like twist on a song. Like, I think there's some really good covers in there, but some of them are just like, I wish I was just listening to the Beatles do this.
Right.
Anyway, is there anything else you wanted to say about The Wrestler?
No, I think I'm good.
Cool. All right. So that is Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler. As we said, we'll be moving on to Black Swan next time. Another very successful, very popular, very award garnering. Yes. I don't know words. I think my vocabulary is decreasing as I get older. That's not good.
Hey, you can always just blame the fact that you have a baby and your sleep is disrupted. I find that to be quite a convenient excuse.
I like it. Yeah. So Black Swan, a very popular, successful movie, and we'll be talking about it next week. Doof. Okay, Matt. Let's pick up the thread that we laid down 3 weeks ago. I wanted to talk to you about movie marketing a little bit here, and trailers, and how we do trailers these days. I think it's actually it fits really well with this conversation because I watched the trailer for The Wrestler after I finished it. Because I usually put a little clip of the trailer in the show, so I watch it and then download it to get it ready to put in the show. And they show the final scene in the trailer for this movie, like him getting up on the ropes and about to do the. And of course, you don't know in that moment that it's like the final moment that he's literally about to die doing this thing. But it strikes me as fascinating that they just cut the trailer in such a way that you see the final sequence play out, basically.
Yeah.
But the point of this conversation was the new M. Night Shyamalan movie Trap, which we're going to talk about this trailer and the details in this trailer right now. So if you are the type of person that is like super spoiler averse, and let me tell you, if you haven't already seen this trailer and you like M. Night Shyamalan and you know you're going to watch this movie, just turn off the podcast now, because I really think the movie would function the best if you just don't know anything about it at all.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I don't. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
In
3,
2, 1.
In essence, this is a new M. Night Shyamalan movie starring Josh Hartnett, which I'm so glad Josh Hartnett is back. That makes me very happy. I've always liked him, even when I don't think he's that great of an actor. But he's having a Mickey Rourke-esque career resurgence here. So
yeah, I like the idea of him as a middle-aged dad much more than I do him as like a heartthrob. Actually, it just fits better to me.
I agree. So the concept of this film, as we're shown in the trailer, is Josh Hartnett as a middle-aged dad is taking his daughter to a show. I don't. It's not a real pop star. I think it's a fake pop star. In the trailer, but it's supposed to be like a young, like it's not supposed to be Taylor Swift-esque. I think it's like Dua Lipa-esque. I think, or maybe it's the pop star is just played by Dua Lipa. I don't know. Doesn't matter. She's really excited to go to the thing. He, in the middle of the show, goes to get some food at the concession stand, leaving his daughter. And the trailer is really playing with your emotions, Matt, because it's an M. Night Shyamalan thing going in, and then at one point he leaves his daughter behind and says, "You're going to be okay, right?" And you're like, "Oh no, this is what this movie's going to be about." But then he sees a bunch of cameras being set up around the place and a huge police presence, and he asks one of the guys selling merchandise what's going on, and he tells him that the butcher, a serial killer that's been killing people in the area, is going to be here tonight, and the police know about it. And so this whole concert has been set up to be a trap for this guy, that he's not going to be able to get out of here. And then the trailer reveals to us that the butcher is Josh Hartnett. That he's the guy. He goes into the bathroom, he pulls out his phone, and we see a feed from inside his house where he has a man tied up in his house screaming for help, and it's him. And so that's the movie. And this is really fascinating because, like I said before we spoiled this, if you walked into this movie not knowing anything about it, that would be a really cool twist for you. I do think, Matt, and you tell me if you agree with this, the trailer spoils the first 15 minutes of the movie, in my mind. That this twist that Hartnett is the killer is going to happen very, very, very early in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. It struck, again, we haven't seen the movie, right? But it struck me from the construction of the trailer and the kind of movie it is, that this is not meant to be a third act twist. This is meant to be isn't this a fun premise, and just kind of get you excited, right? I mean, it's basically the conceit, right? Like the conceit of the movie can't be a twist, really. I mean, sort of.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing I find so interesting and fascinating about this and what I wanted to talk to you about is I do still firmly believe that everyone would enjoy this movie better if this twist, even if it is this is what the movie's really about and we didn't know twist. I think the movie would function better for everyone involved if they didn't know that. However, I don't know how you sell the movie without telling that part of the movie, because that's what the movie is. Like,
right. I mean, you can sell it much less effectively, I think, by just being like, man goes to concert, and then he says that line to his daughter, and then what you do from that point is you just show a bunch of chaotic running and cops pulling out guns and running and chaos and you leave it very unclear, like who's running from who and what's the threat here. Like there's no rule that says you have to have that the trailer has to have like a coherent plot to it. It can just be images, really. Like
Sure.
But yes, I think this is a better hook, though, to be honest. So.
Yeah, I think so too. And this kind of leads me to, like, I think it's really interesting how what trailers have to do and the work they have to do, because I think more than ever, what general audiences need is they need a reason to go to be told to go to the theater, right? It's not enough. It's almost, I think, not even enough to be like, it's the new M. Night Shyamalan film, which for a long time, what, like, you could say it's the new blank film and people were just going to show up, and that is not the case anymore. And so I find it really fascinating the ways in which the trailers and the marketing of movies are having to sell the movie. I think a great example of this functioning in a bad way is there was a movie that came out a couple months ago called Abigail, and I'm going to spoil Abigail for you, Matt, and audience. It's not a good movie, so don't worry about it. But the conceit of this movie is you have what is essentially a heist team, a group of people get together, and what they're going to do is kidnap a little girl, and then hold her for ransom. And the first half of the movie is them executing on this heist, and it's like built and constructed and filmed like a heist movie. And then they get her back to the safe house they were going to hide her in, and the little girl is like, you don't understand what you've just done. And it turns out she's a vampire and starts killing them all.
Amazing.
Now that was spoiled in the trailer of the film.
Yeah.
They sold that mid-movie twist in the trailer of the film. And it's because they were like, I don't think the first half of the movie, even if we have enough footage and enough there to tell people like that or to lie to people or fake them out into this being the movie, I don't think this is enough to get people in the seats. And so we're not confident enough in our movie that we have to basically spoil the mid-movie twist for people.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I on the one hand, that frustrates the hell out of me. And on the other hand, like, I completely understand why these film companies looking at these abysmal returns for their films and just going like, what do we do? Like, we'll go once again back to the Barbenheimer thing. It's like, there's all these marketing people that are probably like, how did they do that? How that thing, like, how does one just make that happen? And it's the answer is a complicated one, right? But like, another reason why this is on my mind is the movie The Fall Guy came out last weekend. I actually went to the theater and went and saw it. It's a Ryan Gosling film, and I was very curious how it would do based on the Ryan Gosling of it all. He's a very popular actor right now. Can he open a movie? And the answer, Matt, is no.
That's amazing. There really is no such thing as a movie star anymore. If he came right off of Barbie and can't launch a movie, that's...
The movie made $28.5 million its opening weekend, which isn't bad, but it cost $130 million to make.
Yeah.
And so maybe that is a conversation about maybe that movie should never have costed $130 million. Like, if it was a $50 to $70 million movie, a $30 million opening weekend is actually great, and you'd be happy about it. But they put this past weekend was like the Marvel slot that the Deadpool moved away from, and is typically the weekend that Marvel movies open. It's a big blockbuster weekend, and they tried to sell this movie as a big blockbuster movie, and it just didn't work. Nobody, I mean, not nobody, but it just didn't connect on that level. And it's not a bad movie. It's good. But like, just all the stuff that I'm seeing about like what we spoil in trailers and we don't spoil in trailers, and how we sell a movie like Trap, and how we sell a movie like the Fall Guy. Like, I'm just really fascinated by the marketing apparatus of films these days, and how it just feels like nobody knows quite what to do, actually.
Yeah, I think people have lost the plot because there's kind of no answer, right? It's just it's an unsolvable problem because people just aren't seeing movies now. It really, the Barbenheimer thing was a fluke, really. Like, it was not engineered to be that way. It was a fluke. Nobody cleverly planned that. It was basically organic. I mean, maybe I don't know if it was an advertising executive who thought up the word Barbenheimer. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this
No,
has
I don't
been
think it
like,
was. Yeah.
I feel like it's been like a fashion thing where, like, I remember over the years there have been times when, the conversation was always like, man, why do they just spoil the whole movie in trailers? Like, it's so annoying that they do that. And then it would feel like they wouldn't do that for a while, and you would
Mm-hmm.
stop hearing that quite so much. And maybe it's just like they kind of changed their opinion about uh, what exactly it is that gets people in the seats.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. It is interesting though. I definitely feel like this used to be even worse of a problem. I can't put my finger on exactly what movie I'm thinking of, but I remember like there was a period of time when you would be watching the trailers before a movie and you would just be like, wow, I just had like 4 movies spoiled for me. Like
Uh-huh.
to the point where I don't even know why I would bother seeing them. And that was just how they did trailers for a while.
Yeah.
This was a long time ago, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Marvel movies for a while were very good at not really spoiling anything in the film, to the extent that they would like alter digitally sequences to hide things. And I think that probably comes from a level of supreme confidence in that, like, there was a while there where people were just going to see the new Marvel movie no matter what it was, and so we have to do a trailer because we need people to know that when the movie's coming out, and so we need video images on screen to show them. But ultimately, like, we don't have to put too much effort into selling them on the film.
Yeah.
Um, but that time is gone now, I think, across the board. I am very curious about this Deadpool movie that's coming out in June and how it's going to do. Um, because it's the only Marvel movie that happens this year. So it's kind of been built up to be the event movie of the summer. So it could go very well. It is rated R though. So rated R films tend to not perform as well. But and maybe like the Marvel slump has just made people like kind of about this. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I was really thinking Gosling would make people turn out for this thing, and they just didn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to think like, why didn't I go see it? Like, I love Gosling. Sounds like a fun premise. Trailer looked fun. I mean, I still might see it. It's not like, oh, the movie is gone now. It's like, no, I can still go
Yeah,
see it this weekend. But
you could. I have a suspicion that there are a lot of people that really like Ryan Gosling, and there are a lot of people that are like, I want to see Ryan Gosling in this new movie, but not enough to go to the theaters. I
uh
really do think I would not be surprised to learn that this movie does very well on streaming. That
mhm.
this is going to be one of those ones that it hits streaming, and there's going to be a lot of talk about how it's the number one rented film across all these things. Um, I get that feeling.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
But we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just this whole topic has been on my mind lately, and the Shyamalan trailer that I absolutely loved, and then almost immediately regretted watching.
Yeah,
I mean, I really do. I hope people actually did not tune out that we're going to go see the movie, because I really like. I'm imagining like this movie playing Fantastic Fest, and I walk into the theater. The only thing I know about this movie is it's a Shyamalan film, and then the reveal happens, and it's just like, oh shit.
yeah. Well, we'll have to talk about that again when we watch it and
Yeah,
decide whether they actually ruined the movie for us or not.
yeah. I mean, I think the most pressing question about that film is, okay, is the rest of the movie just going to be Hartnett evading capture for the remaining 90 minutes or whatever, or is there more that's going to happen there? I feel like it could function either way, right? It could
Yeah,
just be this really intense, anxious thriller where he's like desperately trying to escape getting
yeah.
caught. But
Well,
I feel like it has to be more than that, because like, if
yeah.
Shyamalan's not stupid, if this character is just a gross serial killer, we're
Well,
not gonna. Are we gonna want to cheer for him?
I don't know. I mean, there's already the complication that he's got his daughter there,
True. Yeah.
and I feel like that is enough of a dramatic twist uh, to make us to potentially do something fun with. Yeah,
True. 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 Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. We'll definitely be talking about that movie when it comes out. I think later this summer. It's
yep.
a double Shyamalan summer, Matt. I don't know if you knew that.
Did not. What's the other one?
The other one is actually a film directed by his daughter that he's producing. Because we love the Nepo babies.
We do. That's the main way we get artists.
It is a film called The Watchers,
Cool.
directed by Shyamalan and written by her. You might want to check out that trailer. It looks sufficiently creepy in a fun way.
Nice.
So yeah, I think this is not her first thing that she's directed. She directed, at least of I know, she directed some episodes of that show, that Apple TV show Servant, that I've talked to you about how I both loved and think no one else would love because it's just so incredibly Shyamalan in a lot of ways. So I enjoyed her episodes of that, and I'm anxious to see it. So 2 Shyamalans,
Exciting.
one summer.
I didn't know about this. This is great.
Yeah. All right, but I think that's going to do it for us this week. If you have any opinions on The Wrestler, on trailers, on M. Night Shyamalan, on whatever, feel free to reach out to us at doofmedia@gmail.com or over on X @doofmedia.
That's right. And if you're not subscribed to the Doofcast, please do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, YouTube, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
And if you like what we do here and want to support us, consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. Head on over to patreon.com/doofmedia, and you can join the wonderful group of people that like listening to Matt and I talk for an extended period of time every week.
It's a select crew, but all amazing people.
Great people. Great people. We have some bonus content on there right now. Matt, you have a new episode of Freeman Bros that just came out this week.
That is correct. Talked about art.
Yeah, you also talked about how Daniel and I argue with each other through you.
Yeah.
In our various podcasting shows.
I really enjoy this.
I don't. Well, I'm screaming at nothing.
Well, if you want to argue with Daniel, you know what to do. Just tell me your arguments.
I don't want to get into this right now, but I literally in all caps typed to you as I was listening. But that's bad storytelling, Daniel.
Yeah, well, I'll pass it along.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I couldn't possibly just communicate with him myself. I have his contact information, but
there's only one allowed conduit of communication with Daniel.
It's a very good episode, though. You folks should check it out if you're a patron and you haven't already. And also, Castle Talk is back next week as we wrap up season 1 of Castle Rock. We're doing the final 2 episodes. We'll be chatting about those. Really been enjoying that series, so I think you folks should check that out as well.
That's right. And also, please consider rating and reviewing the Doofcast on Apple Podcasts. Each review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
All right, folks. Next week, we continue with Darren Aronofsky and Black Swan. We'll see you then.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.